Hey guys, welcome back to the BuzWeaver channel, and we are doing a follow-up on what we have been covering now for weeks, if not months. Here from CNN Business, the latest on the global supply chain crisis. Transportation Secretary stressed need for infrastructure legislation while addressing supply chain issues. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg stressed that while the Biden administration works with the private sector to ease supply chain bottlenecks across the country and the globe, the supply chain themselves are often outdated and need to be modernized in order to meet the new demands it faces since the pandemic. So basically what Pete Buttigieg is doing and the administration is doing, what they always do, is they want something first before they can act, which is ridiculous. We already have a crisis, we already have a problem, and instead of acting and finding solutions to the problem, they want to try to resolve this by legislation or through politics. And this is the damaging aspect to having the establishment back in control. When Joe Biden says America is back, what he's saying is the establishment is back. So they know there's a crisis. They know there's a problem. So Pete Buttigieg and the administration are trying to suggest that we have modernization problems or lingering pandemic problems. We'll get to that in just a moment. Now, I want you to see the difference and contrast. Former Home Depot CEO warned supply chain crisis becoming national emergency. It's not getting better. So we know there's an emergency. The emergency exists, and the administration saying, well, we need to do X, Y, and Z first before we actually take action. Well, no, the crisis is here right now. The action needs to be taken at this very moment. So the ongoing labor shortage in the U.S. is now leading to massive cargo delays and shortages within the supply chain. Bob Nardilli, former CEO of Home Depot and Chrysler, warns the problem is becoming a national emergency, and it is becoming a major problem because we already know what has happened as far as the restrictions and the basically heavy-handedness of the administration to ensure that the vaccine mandate is met. How in the world can you try to mandate something during a pandemic, if that's what you want to call it, by firing the people that are the frontline workers helping to fight against the pandemic? What were the medical workers? What were the medical professionals? What were people doing before the pandemic to protect themselves and protect the people that they can't do right now? So your solution, Joe Biden, is to fire people who aren't complying with your vaccine mandate. The people who need to be on the front lines fighting this pandemic, as well as people working. So while Joe Biden is suggesting that he is trying to improve the country, he is willing to fire people. He is willing to fire people that is creating this problem, not only in the medical community, but also in transportation. So you guys, I encourage you to share this video. Let people know what's going on, what we can anticipate, and what this Joe Biden administration is actually doing. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg relaxing trucker regulations under review in supply chain crisis. So Pete's idea here is to essentially let truck drivers do their job, which is extraordinary. Well, we would have already concluded that to begin with by knowing that truckers should be able to do their job. But if you're forcing people to have a procedure done before they can drive their trucks, it has nothing to do with the truckers themselves or relaxing trucker regulations. It has to do with you and the administration forcing people to have a procedure done or having a procedure done which is in violation of our Constitution. As the supply chain crisis grips the nation and inflation surge, we got that too, the White House is mulling relaxing regulations for truck drivers. They're mulling it. They're just considering it. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg tells Fox Business that allowable hours for drivers are under review to get more truckers on the road, but he notes safety issues as part of the review. So we have safety issues. We have infrastructure bill. We have all of these non-essential aspects to this crisis, like ideological discussions, as opposed to letting drivers drive, allowing drivers to drive, allowing people to make a decision about their own health, and then letting them do their job, especially now. We already have a crisis in the medical community, and Joe Biden is firing those people. We already have an issue in the transportation and distribution system because Joe Biden is wanting to implement fines on companies who have 100 employees or more. Now that's not been passed yet, and I think what's going to happen is it's going to come before SCOTUS, the Supreme Court, and he's going to get shot down. So Biden is playing a very, very dangerous game here. He is avoiding having to be talked down to either by Congress, which I don't think they're going to do anything, but SCOTUS no doubt will have to jump in here at some point because the president is getting way out of hand. This situation is getting way out of hand. International shipping workers warn of global transport systems collapse unless pandemic restrictions on trade and movement are quickly lifted. You see this? Unless pandemic restrictions. So Pete Buttigieg is talking about, oh, well, we need infrastructure. We need an infrastructure bill to pass. We need politics to get involved before action can be done. But here it is right here. Partly is a pandemic restriction. And we see these ships sitting off the coast there in many parts of LA. So you see here in the port of LA. So all of these have been sitting here. And we see the shortages at the grocery stores. And we're seeing these long lines here. And this is in Dover in England. So this is continuing on. And see, here's part of the infrastructure bill is also part of the Dems proposal for this $3 trillion tax hike. And who's it going to affect? Raises taxes on working families by increasing the federal corporate income tax rate from 21% to 26.5%. So you see here, Biden is going after the middle class, and this $600 tracking, IRS tracking they want to do is just for them to be able to see it's really a tax on the poor to see if individuals who maybe aren't working or getting unemployment, where are they getting this additional money from, right? It's for them to be able to track to see who's getting money under the table and whether or not they're paying their fair share. Remember, it was always the millionaires and billionaires paying their fair share. Well, this $600 tracking issue or deal they want to do with the IRS is just going to track the poor to see where some of these people are getting their money. It's absolutely insane. So we see here, inflation is surging under Biden administration. Oh, without a doubt. And we haven't even gotten to the bad part yet. So if you haven't already, guys, make sure you click that like button and be sure you share this information with people because this is what you're not hearing across the board. This is what the media protects Biden from, is the actual tangible problems and issues that the country is facing. Remember with President Trump, it was his tweets or his infidelities in the past, or all of these little rumor mill, daytime television, superficial talking points, but at least the country was economically sound. We were succeeding, we were achieving, we were accomplishing trade deals with the USMCA. The country was succeeding, and we were benefiting as a country. But instead, the Democrats now, with the establishment in power, is stifling the country. They're trying to build on the 4 years they were held back. And of course, Joe Biden is trying to build on his legacy. Look at this. Gasoline has increased 45.1%. This is from the Department of Labor. This is from the Bureau of Labor. This isn't just statistics being thrown out there or allegations or speculations that were being thrown out about President Trump. See, gasoline has increased 45.1, energy 24.5. So bacon, fresh fish, fresh whole milk, fresh fruits, all of these things are continuing to go up. Here's Biden on video promising the world lower costs today. U.S. government reports inflation up to 5.4 annual, and wages fell in June. Now, this was back in July when some of this was going on. But if you're thinking about it now, it's already October, and the prices are continuing to go up and are probably going to continue to go up. Get ready for higher grocery bills for the rest of the year, says NBC News. The latest spike in grocery bills comes on the back of prices that rose during last year's pandemic stockpile. Really? Last year? Last year is the problem that we're having this year with Joe Biden. Because Joe Biden can make decisions, very similar decisions that President Trump made by allowing people to work. President Trump wasn't firing people. President Trump wasn't creating mandates for people that if they didn't work, or if they didn't get a procedure done, they'd be fired. But Joe Biden is actually firing people. So not only do we have a supply shortage, not only do we have a vaccine problem, but Joe Biden is firing people, frontline workers in the medical community that are fighting the pandemic. Joe Biden is willing to fire people and hold the country back for his own legacy and for politics. Shoppers had better start budgeting more for their groceries according to the latest consumer price index, which shows prices are increasing and they're likely to keep going up. Now, keep in mind, this is from NBC News. These are the people that protect Joe Biden. The monthly consumer price index released Tuesday morning by the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, which we just talked about, showed 0.6% increase in March, the largest one-month increase in nearly a decade. Over the past year, prices have increased by 2.6% overall. So over the past year. So we're already 10 months into this year. And yes, during the height of the pandemic, President Trump was the president, but we weren't seeing this outrageous level of increase, nor was President Trump firing frontline workers for either, perhaps not wearing masks or whatever it was they're doing, but everyone was cooperating. People were wearing masks. People were ensuring safety, the same things they could be doing today, but they're just simply not. Joe Biden is looking for political options, political scoring points. He's looking for optics. The man is staging his injections. He's on a stage doing his briefings and whatever press briefings that he's doing. They're all staged. We'll talk about that maybe in the Friday vlog. Questions arise over vaccine mandate enforcement as multiple industries suffer. Yes, there is people suffering as workers in industries from the healthcare to law enforcement face potential termination ahead of deadlines for individual organizations' vaccine mandates. Questions have arisen about how the Biden administration will enforce its nationwide vaccine mandate on the workplace across the country. Well, we're already seeing how it has an impact. In New York, New York's largest healthcare provider fires 1,400 employees who refuse to get vaccinated. What were these people doing before the vaccine? What were they doing to protect themselves, their patients, and the community and society as a whole that they can't do right now? This is absolutely out of control. All of these things that they talked about with President Trump were superficial, were all aspects of his character, things that weren't affecting the country, things that weren't affecting society. It was all an ideology. It was all a philosophy. The Democrats working alongside the mainstream media, the tech giants, activists, special interest, all of them working against a president who was benefiting the country, We were succeeding. We were doing very well internationally. We were at peace. Trump was bringing the troops home. We saw what happened in Afghanistan. Another example of Joe Biden legacy building instead of country building. Instead of benefiting the country, Joe Biden is a puppet, a surrogate of the establishment who was held back for 4 years, and now they are on a tear. Even if they have to hold things back, it's all a political game. Transportation Secretary stresses a need for infrastructure legislation. Wow. How about easing of the mandates? How about allowing Americans to do what Americans do? That's go to work and do their jobs as safely as they can do it. But here we are, facing this shortage, facing a crisis. As the CEO warns, we know that there's a crisis, and we're just beginning to see it. Grocery store shelves, right here. We can see them starting to get empty. Maybe you've noticed it in your own state or in your own country. It's continuing to grow. And this is what I had for you today on Wednesday, October the 13th. All right, guys, I want to thank all of you for your continued support here of the channel, your likes, your shares, and your comments. And, of course, we're here on the channel itself. And if you guys were curious about the shorts I often talk about, it's easier just to go to the main channel and click on videos. And that way you guys can see some of the gaming shorts if you like. And, of course, always see all of the latest videos that are up there. And appearing right there on the screen, that would be the channel icon. If you're here on YouTube, you can click on that and subscribe, as well as click notifications so you know when there's content here. I also want to thank all of you guys on New Tech for following me there as well. And I will see you guys in the Friday vlog.